Okay, as usual, nobody will see you. There were two outstanding sections from last week that we needed to get to. Two points. Number one is we kind of stopped in the middle of the piece because I really wanted to discuss the piece over there at length. The other thing that we wanted to discuss was we understood last week that the Beinoni, this intermediate person, he views himself like a wicked person because he still has urges, but he's not actually wicked. He's not actually wicked because he never actually does a sin, and therefore he will not be depressed by viewing himself as a wicked because he actually is not wicked. The actual line was he is like he is wicked. And this brought up a question that we discussed last week, and I'm going to get to it a little bit longer because we had to cut it short last week. No pun intended with the previous discussion, but we had to cut it short. And so we're going to again delve into this question, which I said quickly, and I said I hadn't researched it much. But we're going to read it again, or this idea, and that is the question is the rest of us, those of us who do sometimes sin, who do make mistakes, who are not a Beinoni, how do we walk around not being depressed? How do we walk around feeling good about ourselves, knowing our failings, and knowing that according to Tanya, we would be classified as an actual Rasha, not just like a wicked person. We're actually wicked. We do mistakes. We make problems. How can I walk around with a positive attitude, knowing that I sin, I make mistakes, I make problems, I mess up the world? And I started quoting a talk of the Rabbi last week, and I want to read it again and kind of expound on it. We're not going to read the text because the original text of the Rebbe's talk is in Hebrew, but I want to get the general idea. The general idea, it's a discussion I had with someone yesterday, which is, there's a general concept that people say is that, God understands. God understands us. God knows who we are. God knows our failings. God created us, and he knows how we're going to act. He knows that I'm not really a Beinoni, let's say, or he knows that it would be very difficult for me to actually be a Beinoni. So that's one way to look at it, is saying that, yes, I'm technically not always a Beinoni, but God is understanding, and therefore there's nothing to be depressed about. But the Rebbe, and that's what you would say maybe off the top of your head. The Rebbe takes it a step further, and the Rebbe says, like this. He says, there's a general concept. Let me back up. Let me give you a law concept, okay? There's a concept in law. I don't know if it applies in secular. It applies in Jewish law. If you go to a court and you swear to something, okay? They make you in Jewish law, there's a lot of times you have to swear for things. Even if you have in mind one thing, what matters is what the Beis Din has in mind when you make a vow. So if you walk into a Beis Din, if you walk into a Jewish court and you make a vow, you will be beholden to what the Bet Din, to what the court has in mind. Okay. You can't, later come with your Jewish lawyer and say, well, I never really meant it, right? Okay, well, you were in a court of Jewish law and they told you exactly what they meant with giving you this vow. And you're going to be beholden to what the Bet Din has in mind. And so with that in mind, the Rebbe says something so brilliant like this. He says, we read in chapter 1, it says, when we're in heaven, our soul is made to swear that we will be a tzaddik and we will not be wicked. Okay? But who gave us that? Who gave us that? Who made us swear that we will be righteous and not be wicked? That was God's court. That was God. And in God's eyes, God is the ultimate judge. God knows how to calculate our lives. In other words, we in a heavenly earth, okay, if you were to go to a Jewish court on this earth, they cannot look at the weight of your mitzvahs. They cannot say, well, because of the way you grew up, this mitzvah is worth more, this mitzvah is worth less. This doesn't deserve a punishment because of how you grew up. The Beis Din, there's a law. A judge can only rule by what they see. A judge in the Jewish court cannot rule by other factors. That's why when someone passes away, what do we say when someone passes away? We say Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. Blessed is the true judge. God on this earth tells us, as a judge, you can't take in other factors. It's too much. It'll make you crazy. Okay? Judges have to judge by what they see. But God can evaluate and calculate the mitzvahs that we do in ways that we wouldn't. So, number one, says the Rebbe, is when let's say my name is John Goldblum. Okay, if I was John Goldblum and I didn't grow up religious, and now I do a mitzvah, to God, that mitzvah is so powerful because God is a true judge. God knows who I am, and based on the situation that I'm in, that mitzvah is worth, that's a platinum mitzvah. Okay, that's a top of the line mitzvah, top shelf mitzvah that can totally turn over many, many other negative things in your life. For example, if I'm a Chabadnik and I find a Jew on the street, I say, excuse me, sir, are you Jewish? He puts on tefillin. Or I stop a woman, I say, excuse me, are you Jewish? Light Shabbos candles. They've never done it before. When they do that mitzvah, that mitzvah is worth a lot. Okay, that mitzvah is worth a lot. So this is number one. As the Rebbe is saying, is you have to understand that God is the true judge, and God can judge your mitzvahs for their real, full value based on your situation. This is step number one that the Rebbe said. Okay, but that's not enough. And the Rebbe added that in addition to that, when you do a mitzvah, if you do that mitzvah with joy, since you're serving God with joy, that itself is a type of teshuvah, repentance, and all of your sins at that moment are transformed into good deeds. So again, the Rebbe is saying two things, two steps of here. Number one, he's saying is the value of any mitzvah you do could be very powerful, more powerful than you can imagine. So even if you think, well, I've done so many sins, what value is there to my one little mitzvah that I'm doing here, right? So let's say, today you wasted a lot of time, right? Let's say you did almost nothing, but then you showed up to synagogue for half an hour, or you came to a Tanya class, okay? So in your mind that you did only one Jewish thing the entire day. And so you might say to yourself, I'm a nobody, I'm a nothing. And you might get depressed by that. So number one, we're saying is that God is the one that made you swear that he wants you to be a tzaddik. And God is the one that can evaluate your mitzvahs. Number two is what I'm seeing is the Rebbe's kind of saying, look at the present. If in the present moment, you are serving God with joy, at this moment, that may be considered a complete teshuvah, complete repentance. And at this moment, you're completely righteous. Just to draw from another place in Jewish law, just so you think the Rebbe just pulling something out of the hat. The Jewish law says like this. It says, if a man marries a woman on condition that he is a tzaddik, that he's completely righteous, we say that we suspect that the marriage is good. Even if we know the guy is a complete sinner, if the guy, right, if the guy tells the woman, he gives her the ring and he says, you are married to me on condition that I am a tzaddik, I'm a righteous person, the halacha is, if they want to get divorced, they need to get a get. You can't just say it's invalid because the condition wasn't real. Why? Says Jewish law, because if you even just have a thought of doing teshuvah, if you had a proper thought in your mind of doing teshuvah, you can have completely done teshuvah and you'll be completely righteous. In other words, Jewish law is saying teshuvah can be done in one instant. Okay, we imagine teshuvah as this big giant idea. When you actually study the treatise of teshuvah, we will study it eventually in the Alter Rebbe's Tanya. Teshuvah, the essence of teshuvah can be done in a moment. Teshuvah literally means regret over the past and a decision not to do it anymore. And that can be done in a moment. Now, so you may ask, so why is there a whole Yom Kippur and a whole forgiveness is a different thing? Teshuvah, repentance, means you are a better person. To be that you won't need any cleansing for your sins, for that you might need more. But the general idea of teshuvah can be done in a moment. And so the same thing the Rebbe is pulling that idea here is the Rebbe is basically saying, let's focus on the moment right now. Who cares what you've done in the past? If right now you serve God with joy, right now you make the right decision, right now you go to the Tanya class, right now you light the Shabbos candles, at this moment in time, at this very moment in time, there is what to be happy about. There's nothing to be depressed about that you're wicked, because right now you're not wicked. Right now, if you serve God with joy, God is forgiving you for everything that you've done. And on top of that, as the Rebbe says, God calculates your mitzvahs much greater than you yourself might count them. And so you may think, well, I'm just doing one mitzvah today, but that one mitzvah is so powerful. And so I think if I were to extrapolate, the Rebbe is kind of pulling into what people call about living in the present. And the Rebbe is taking the Jewish view on living in the present. If you serve God at this moment with joy, God, who is the ultimate great judge, will judge you in a righteous way. And at that moment, all of your sins are as if they don't exist. And therefore, there's what to serve God with joy. So again, it sounds a little bit like, I don't want to say voodoo. It sounds a little crazy, but this is what the Rebbe is telling us. The Rebbe is saying that every moment that you have a choice, someone's saying, Rabbi, how would you summarize are the implications for your students today? Very good question. So I'll back up a moment. To summarize, what am I trying to say? We are bothered by a question. If we study the Tanya, we may come up with the vision that I am wicked and I feel bad. And I might get depressed. Now, the Tanya will discuss depression at length later. And it will discuss different scenarios. What if the depression falls into you when you're learning? What if the depression falls to you when you're not learning? All the different ways of dealing with it at the moment. But putting the details aside, how can I be happy right now when I'm doing a mitzvah is what I'm tackling right now. How can I be happy right now when I'm doing a mitzvah if I know that this one mitzvah, this is how I'm taking it right now. If I know that this one mitzvah is not worth a lot, okay? What's it worth? This is something a lot of people tell me all the time, right? When I stop with you and I say, do you want to put on something, they say I'm a bad Jew. What they're in essence is saying the same question that Tanya said in the beginning. Is if you view yourself as wicked, you feel like, what's the worth of my one mitzvah? And the answer that the Rebbe is giving us is that number one, your one mitzvah is worth a lot. You may not even realize it, right? Okay, your mitzvah is worth a lot because God can see you. God understands you, your situation, how you grew up. So number one, don't discount this single mitzvah that you can do right now. And number two, if when you do that mitzvah, you do it with joy, you're not even a Rasha. You're not even a wicked person anymore. Take out I'm a bad Jew. You're not a bad Jew. Right now, you're a great Jew. Right now, you're a good Jew. So not only is your one mitzvah worth a lot, but even you're worth a lot right now. When you do that one mitzvah right now with joy, that mitzvah is worth a lot, and you are worth a lot. Because right now, when you serve God with joy, all of your sins, they go up in smoke. That is what the Rebbe is saying. Whether you agree with it or not, this is what the Rebbe says, so I believe it. And this is the truth. And this is, again, this is the problem. This is what prevents a lot of people from doing mitzvahs. Again, the Time's going to discuss depression a little bit later, and it's very interesting, fascinating chapter. The big problem Tanya has with depression is usually the cause for not doing anything. Depression makes us feel very righteous. When we feel sad, oh, I must be so holy. I feel so bad about what I've done. But depression is actually a hidden sin. It really prevents you from doing good. And so again, people saying I'm a bad Jew, I'm a bad person. And what the Rabbi is saying here is that never discount your mitzvah. God knows how much your mitzvah is worth, number one. Number two, you yourself are worth so much when you do a single mitzvah with joy. And so no matter what you do the rest of your day, right now, when you're serving God with joy, you are righteous. You are holy, and your mitzvah is worth a lot. And that's the takeaway that we have from here. So The Tanya tells us why a Beinoni shouldn't be depressed, and the Rebbe tells us why we shouldn't be depressed. Okay, so that is just an important topic that I wanted to cover. Any questions or comments? And I appreciate it, David. Yes, your one mitzvah is worth a lot. Correct. Yes, your one mitzvah is worth a lot, and you're worth a lot. Okay. On from some nice, good feeling thoughts, we'll go to something more difficult to deal with. How about that? How does that sound? Okay. This comes back to my discussion last week. I said we have to know the truth, and the truth sometimes hurts, but helps us become better people. So the Tanya is all about telling us the truth. Yes, David.
Yeah, just very quick question or comment. So yeah. I think your opening segment is really crucial for us students to remember at all times as we study the Tanya, because in a lot of cases in the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe has high expectations for us. I'm paraphrasing, and I think I have this right. We have to remember that we're Rashas, right? You're a Rasha, you're a Rasha, you're a Rasha. That could get demoralizing.
Yes,
no matter what we do. Right. And so I think it's just crucial for us to remember what you just said at all times, that every one of our mitzvah matters. Every one of our mitzvahs matters. And yeah, I just think it's a crucial point what you're saying.
Yes, thank you. I would also add, even the Tanya itself doesn't spend so much time telling you you're a Rasha. It does in the beginning chapters, but past that, once we get to 16, 17, all the way through 53, it really doesn't discuss this anymore, because again, it's hidden within the Tanya, but really the Tanya is not so much about telling you that you are a Rasha or you are a Rasha. It's trying to help you recognize where you are in life, and from that know what to do in the next step. And the Rebbe is saying is, whenever you take that next step, recognize that you're holy at that moment, and your mitzvah is worth a lot. But yes, a cursory reading of the Tanya will make us depressed and make us think that we're all a Rasha, and there's reason to be depressed. And that's why this talk of the Rebbe is very crucial. Correct. Okay. So this is kind of we have the same thing, by the way, when we study the Torah. The Torah seems very demanding as well. We have to learn how to balance knowing the truth, right? In other words, for example, let's say Shabbos. We have to recognize what is completely honoring the Shabbos, even if we're not up to there. We have to know the truth. Okay, so you have to study the Torah. You have to know the truth. What is completely honoring the Shabbos? At the same time, knowing that who is giving me the Shabbos is God. We have to remember who gave me the commandment is God. And when we understand who God is, then we can understand that even if I'm not fully there yet, obviously I'm working towards it, but even if I'm not fully there yet, as I'm working towards it, it's God that's judging me, and it's God that knows me and God that created me. And so I think a lot of times what happens is when we disconnect the shall I say, the commands from who's commanding it, that's when it becomes very depressing. And we have to always remember, this is coming from God. Okay, let's take a look at the next section of Tanya, which is not related to what we spoke about before. And again, getting to the hard truth, which was another discussion we had last week, and that the truth is difficult. And here the Alter Rebbe is going to say a truth. Now, he was telling it to Beinoni, but this is a truth that applies to us as well. And I think it requires some thought. And you can see I underlined it over here, because I find this to be so important in our lives, and recognizing, how should I say? Sometimes we want to know why we're not making as much progress as we would have hoped. We're already 30, 40, 50, 60. And we would have wished we would have made more progress. And the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us the truth here that will tell us that the same way your godly soul makes progress, your animal soul is also making progress. Before I show the text, let's talk about it. So again, we wonder why. Why? Again, I'm in my 30s, and I wonder, but I'm sure everybody, whatever age you are, everybody else here is not much older than that. But whatever age you are, we wonder sometimes, why have I not made that much more progress? Why are my battles? Why do I still have to fight these battles? I thought I would have moved past them. And the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us the truth, a very interesting one, that just as your godly soul gets stronger over time, hopefully, assuming, your animal soul also gets stronger over time. And the Alter Rebbe is going to say this for a Beinoni. Okay, how much more so it applies to us. And he says a simple truth. You're living in this world. Every day you eat a meal. Every day you sleep. Every day you have fun. The more your animal soul gets use, the stronger it gets. The same way, the more you use your godly soul, the stronger it gets, right? So the more times you pray. But we cannot forget that as we live life, there's two souls within us living at the same time. And so no matter how much you've been working on yourself spiritually, on your spiritual soul, your animal soul is there the whole time. He never left. Okay, he never took a vacation. Every breakfast, lunch, and supper, he's there. And for snacks in between, and for all your vacations, and for every time you go to sleep. And he's not getting any weaker. You know, he's enjoying it more and more as life goes on. He's gaining more pleasures, more desires, more things that he wants. He's becoming more sophisticated. And so here the Alter is telling you is that maybe you are better than you were before. Your godly soul is stronger. Remember, though, your animal soul is also stronger, but that's not a reason to be depressed. I guess it's, if you almost want to call it, I would say it's almost become a level playing field. As we go on through life, we are always faced with a battle. The Beinoni is always faced with a battle. Now, the Beinoni always overcomes. We, even if we're not Beinoni, we also can have the ability to get better at overcoming. But the challenge is, this is really what the Alter was saying, the challenge that your animal soul is going to give you may also get stronger as your life goes on. And so don't get depressed thinking, well, I'm already this age, shouldn't it, why is it, why, I would think by the time I'm 50, when I wake up Shabbos morning, I would want to get out of bed and go to shul. Why do I still feel lazy? I want to sleep, and some people sometimes feel if the challenge keeps coming, that means that the challenge is the truth, right? If the feelings keep coming, that means that those feelings are correct. If the pull to the wrong side, that means that's really who I am. And Alter is telling you no. Urges, you cannot judge your truth by your urges. And if anything, Alter says your urges over time will become stronger. Your animalistic soul urges will become stronger because you use it more. A very simple truth. No matter how righteous you act, even if you are a Beinoni, even a Beinoni has to eat food and is going to enjoy his food. It's impossible not to unless you're a tzaddik, okay? We discussed earlier, tzaddiks really don't necessarily have a pleasure from food, or if they do, it's a different type of level. But even a Beinoni enjoys his food, and so we have all been living life, and so we should not get depressed by the fact that the challenges continue and may still be difficult. So let's take a look here. On the contrary, not only has your animal soul failed to weaken, but with the passing of time, it has actually become stronger because you have made extensive use of it through eating and drinking and other worldly activities. The animal soul is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Even if all its desires are kosher, the fact that it drives you to eat and enjoy other pleasures daily gives it strength. So in all likelihood, the Beinoni's impression that he is a tzaddik. Anyway, so now he gets to a point that now he gets back to the Beinoni. Again, we discussed basically the Beinoni will always have urges, and therefore the Beinoni needs to know that he's not a tzaddik. But putting that aside, I wanted to read this line how it applies to us. It does apply to the Beinoni. I explained it last week. I grew up, reading this passage, and they used to tell stories, and they're true stories. Is that they have all these stories. I'll paraphrase. I'll kind of make it differently. One time, somebody came to the Rebbe Rasha, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, and he says, "How come when I was in yeshiva, I used to be able to daven and pray for so long, and now I can't?" And the Rebbe answered him, "Well, what do you think? If you take a Danish and a black coffee every morning, you think you're going to be able to pray?" Now, halavai, that should be your only thing. But the point was that he was saying, like, why are you surprised? Your animal soul, you've been feeding your animal soul for so long, it's going to make it more difficult to feel spiritual. And this is a truth that is true in our lives as well, is that indulgence in, and I've spoken about this many times, indulgence in the physicality of this world does prevent spirituality. Can block some of your spirituality for the simple reason it makes your animal soul stronger, which will desensitize you to some spirituality. And while Judaism is not a denialism, okay, Judaism does not deny. Judaism says we should eat, we should get dressed, we should wear normal clothing, we should shower, and all that stuff. But it's the indulgence in all these items that will prevent us from spirituality. So if someone comes and says, Rabbi, how come I'm not, the spiritual stuff is it's not fitting in my head. I'm not really getting it. Sometimes very practically. I mean, how much of your day are you spending on on Netflix and Hulu and all other fun stuff? And I'm not bashing any of this, but I'm just pointing out that we should be careful when we expect spirituality to come without any sacrifice. Now, nobody likes to sacrifice. Nobody likes to do that. I don't like it either. Your doctor, though, would like you to sacrifice. I can tell you that much, right? All of our doctors would love us to follow the Tanya. We'd all be eating very healthy, We'd be eating just to survive and just enough to eat. But the point is that, in my opinion, or not my opinion, what I understand is I think we all at our own level, and I'm not going to tell where everybody's at. Everybody at their own level. There are areas of our life where we can indulge less. And if our goal is, and I'm not saying it's your goal, but if your goal is more spirituality, you have to indulge a little bit less. And by the way, indulging is not just food. And I don't want anybody to get that wrong. It could be the speech that we say, okay? How about a little bit of lashon hara? Who doesn't like to talk a little gossip? Gossip's a lot of fun, any area where we deny our animal soul is going to weaken it. Even if you're not going to do it in general in your life, you're going to find small areas of your life where you're going to tell your animal soul no. And that will open up a little bit of more spirituality in your life. And so this is just a thought that I'm picking up for you from here that that you can take for in your life. I always find it interesting.
Rabbi,
Yes.
without going down a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
where's the line between indulgence and not indulgence? So like for food, for example, because like even a tzaddik has to eat.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that same question.
Okay, good. See, I use the word indulgence because I was trying to be nice. But really, I mean, listen, if we were going to live this life like 100%, we would literally eat only what is necessary for us. Okay? But most of us are not there. So I think we all have to make a decision somewhere in our life. That's why I said, in other words, the truth, in other words, if we want to live the true Bainani life, if we were a Bainani, let's say, if we were a Bainani, we would literally be eating, you'd have dinner, you'd eat exactly what you need to eat to live. Okay? However, I'm talking to a group of us, people like me, and we're not all going to do that. So I'm not really going to give you a specific answer is what I'm saying. Because like I'm saying, the ultimate is it's like all the way there, right? That's pretty far. And we're
Well, right. And I know there's not like a bright line test. It's not like if you eat, 4.5 ounces of blah, 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 it's, okay, but 4.6 isn't. It's really more about like, how do you make a judgment about, well, what is it that you need to eat? Because like, you can have a few bites of food and you say, well, okay, I'm fine for a while. But, are you really? I mean, is that what's healthy for you? Because you have to still be able to have the proper nutrients and maintain your body and all that sort of a thing.
Right. Well, what's interesting is the Alter Rebbe says here is that even if you were completely a Beinoni and you literally only ate what you needed, but at the moment when you were eating it, you enjoy it because food has flavor, that itself will strengthen your animal soul. Fascinating. So even if you were completely a Beinoni, you were completely eating for the right reasons, completely eating the right nutrients, even if you managed to pin down exactly what you need to eat and how much you need to exercise, even then, your animal soul would get stronger. So what I was just suggesting here is that, we're not even close to there, is that if we want to become more spiritual, I think we should find an area of our life where we should diminish. As we've had discussions earlier, sometimes it's a matter of intention as well. We've had those discussions as well, which is very difficult. You can be doing the same exact action, but what's your intention in it? How much are you into it?
So I agree. And like I said, I don't want to go too far down a theoretical path here and stray from the concepts here. The question I'm really asking is the tzaddik has eradicated really all evil and has complete hold over the animal soul.
Yeah.
So how does the tzaddik not, I'll say strengthen, to use that word, the animal soul through eating?
Right.
It's really more along that line that I'm asking.
Yeah, so I would say the tzaddik is like a totally different type of existence, which we couldn't even understand, should I say. We're not tzaddiks. We can't really fathom their lives. And my understanding is that a tzaddik, when they eat, definitely a complete tzaddik, possibly even an incomplete tzaddik, they don't necessarily enjoy food the way we do. Do they have some flavor taste of it? I assume they do, or some of them do, but they're of a completely different caliber to the point where the taste, I guess, almost doesn't make a difference to them. In the absence of animal soul, it like doesn't even tickle their, like, even if I ate for a completely right reason, I would still enjoy the good food, right? Right, that's you and me, I assume. My understanding is that tzaddik, when they eat a good food, the good flavor in it really doesn't do anything for them.
Okay,
That's a
thanks.
shame.
Huh?
That's a shame.
Well, why is it a shame? Honestly, he's much more happy than we are. Okay.
He doesn't taste the steak, that juicy, nice steak. Oh, that's a shame.
What you enjoy in a juicy steak, he has 10 times more enjoyment in a juicy davening. Really? No, I'm being honest. When we die, it says that the Mishnah says that the pleasure of the 1 hour of the world to come, meaning of our souls in heaven, is more pleasurable than a whole lifetime here. In other words, you could gather all the best steaks and the filet mignon and the sushi and everything that you can enjoy here on this earth, and 1 hour of spiritual bliss in heaven is better than all of that.
I understand that, but also Hashem gave us this world and the pleasures that we have here. And you're saying that you're going to go crazy about them, but if you enjoy them with moderation, I don't see anything wrong with it.
So let's back up a second. Before we get to us, okay, again, tzaddiks are rare, and tzaddiks are a different breed, and tzaddiks have a very different job on this earth. Tzaddiks are almost like spiritual beings that are really here to help elevate us, and they do a totally different job. They're not angels, they're still not angels, but so I don't think it's fair to ask questions on tzaddiks because they're not the general population and they operate at a totally different level, and the fact that they don't enjoy steaks doesn't bother them at all. Okay? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, I don't know. Should ask them.
Hey, listen, leave what I'm trying to say is leave the tzaddiks alone. Let them not enjoy their steaks because trust me, they are enjoying life much more than we are. Okay. So honestly, I don't feel it's a shame they don't enjoy the steak. I honestly envy them because they have a better life than we do. They enjoy God every moment, and they're having like much better life than enjoying steak. But let's talk about us for a second. Yes.
Did the I don't know if it was the Alter Rebbe, but you'll know what I'm talking about. They were asked, they asked I'll say a congregant, how do you feel, on Yom Kippur, we're opening the ark for Nila, and the person talked about the sense of elation and joy and everything that they felt at that time. And the tzaddik said, that's how I feel on Tuesday.
Very good. Very good. Wow, that's a great story. Yeah, I think I heard what I don't remember who it was about, but yeah, that's a good point. Exactly. The great feelings we feel in Yom Kippur and Neilah, the tzaddik feels every day. Yeah, that's a great way of bringing it to us. So, if we could live the life of a tzaddik, which we're not given the opportunity, as you have studied the time, you know that already. But if we were given the opportunity to be a tzaddik, I would take it in a heartbeat. I would drop my enjoyable steaks and hamburgers and hot dogs with ketchup and mustard. I would drop it for that. It would be worth it. And in fact, one day we'll all drop it. Once when Mashiach comes, or if God, or if God forbid we have to pass away and our souls go on, our souls will be very happy without the steak. Be that as it may, we do live in a world where steak is pleasurable. And what role does that play? Obviously God made steak taste good. So what role does that play? And that goes back to our discussions about intention. Number one, we discussed you can enjoy steak on Shabbos. Okay, right? Shabbos is a mitzvah to enjoy, and it's an elevated mitzvah. But number two is that if the steak can bring about goodness, is it worth utilizing that steak? So if I can get people together to study Torah over a steak, or if eating a good steak broadens your mind, right? That's what we discussed. There was a great rabbi who used to eat steak before he would study Torah. In other words, you don't want to feel, there's a good Yiddish word. Anybody heard this word called farkvetzt? Farkvetzt? Farkvetzt means you feel very boxed in. You feel very well, I'll describe it. If you imagine if you were to deny yourself of all physical pleasures tomorrow, you would feel farkvetzt, okay? You would be very withdrawn. Let's put it that way, okay? You become a very withdrawn person. So God created us with a body, and we do need to enjoy some pleasures of this world to make ourselves feel human, okay? So for example, normal, good clothing, exercise, decent food, all those things allow us to be a little bit broad in our life, to not be too farkvetzt, okay? And then when we're in that mode, we can serve God in a great way, okay? Right? But we always have to remember what's the intention, right? So, for example, right, like a businessman, a businessman who's buying expensive suits so they can feel good about themselves and make good deals. That's a legitimate business expense, right? I'm taking a business example because I think it's a good example, right? But conversely, sometimes you have people who work for a business and use business expenses for a lot of things that really are just for their own pleasures, right? I was reading so they're going out to restaurants every 5 minutes. It's the same idea here, right? Right. So again, there's legitimate business expenses that a businessman can use from their business, and then there's things which are just really pure self-pleasure. We have to know in our lives, what of these pleasures of life are going to allow me to further my Jewish life, and what is just overindulgence. Now, just as I'm not an IRS agent, and I couldn't tell you, in a business, what's a legitimate business and what's not, it depends on the business. It's going to depend on every single person. I couldn't tell you an answer. Yes, gym, no gym, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 4 ounces, 5 ounces. Yes, movies, no movies. God is a judge, as we said earlier, and every situation is going to be different. But yeah, intention matters. And so we need to go back and figure out when is this physical pleasure going to further getting me into the right mood where I can serve God, or when is it too much? And I suspect that most of us have enough areas of our life that are too much that we can cut out. Let's put it that way, okay? So what I'm suggesting here is not that you all should start eating, really horrible tasting food that's just nutrition, okay? But what I am suggesting is that we all want to become a little more spiritual, and I think we have areas of our life where we can, so to speak, trim the fat. There are areas of our life where we can cut out a little bit, and we'd still be okay, and we'd still would be fine. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with anybody? You know, when you feel you've cut out all the fat, then come back to me and say, now, Rabbi, what's next? You know, but I know that I waste enough time, and there's enough things in my life, or do enough things that I can cut out that would make me more spiritual and a better person. Yes, Beth.
I guess I like what you said there. I think it's a struggle for a lot of us regular human people between the spiritual and the material. Like
Yeah.
last night I was on a group thing and someone said, oh, I have enough clothes that I could wear something different every day of the year. Okay, well, that's nice. I mean, God
Right.
bless you. God bless you. I like
Yeah,
clothes
yeah.
too, but I
Yeah,
don't know. I think that's a little obsessive, but whatever. I love clothes, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
that may make it hard to feel spiritual if you're that obsessed in your clothes,
Yeah.
right? That's a good
And
example.
I guess the husband criticized that and said, well, you have disposable clothes. You know, the husband exactly didn't like it, but what I can understand. But
Right.
anyway,
So I think we all have, it's a good example. Looking at extremes is always the easiest, right? I think we
yeah,
all have areas of our life where we're overindulging. Does that make sense?
yes,
I,
yep,
I, I hope everybody feels the same. That's how I feel. Yes,
Yeah, I do. I would say if you know, like for myself, like to help myself, what helps me is that like, I'm not saying everybody should do this, but if you could cut out the TV, I think that for me, it really helped me. And then like, it's very hard for us to limit screen time. This is really, that's where I struggle with that. I start reading all that, the news from the Google, like, it's
well, you
crazy.
don't have to limit the screen time. You just have to make it set to Rabbi
Right.
Adler's YouTube channel, and then you're okay. No, okay.
Yeah, then you're good, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
the TV, up at the TV, you got all those ads. You have
Yeah,
all
listen,
the
like I said,
gossip.
everybody's gonna have a different area. It could be in food, it could be in talk, it could be in TV, it could be there's
Yeah,
so many areas of our life that
but
I'm just
it did really, I mean, that was like, it was a big help to me personally. So I'm just
yeah.
saying, even to
The
cut
main
it
the main
back,
thing
I'm
is
not
that
telling
it's
people.
it is very hard to figure out. And
It
we've had
is
these discussions
very
many
hard.
times. Things that are not clear cut, like I said, the middle ground of life is where the test of life is. Things that are clearly wrong are easy to say no to. Things that are clearly right are easy to say yes to. It's the middle ground of life that's the hardest. But I want to hear from Baruch, because Baruch, you started the question. Have I helped answered your question?
Yes.
I answered it without answering it, right? That's the typical rabbi answer, right?
No, this was clear,
Okay. Yeah,
which isn't typical.
Huh?
Which isn't typical.
Which isn't typical. Oh, okay, sorry. Well, I didn't give you a definition, but I think I gave a general idea.
It wasn't about definition. I mean, because it's not. I don't think there's like bright line tests to these things. I think it's just more
Right.
about trying to
The principle.
contextualize it, because they're in different places. And I think for me, um, the idea that like the food really has no utility other than, you need to put it in your mouth and you need to get it into your system and all that, sort of, contextualized it for me between tzaddik and others.
Right. Now, by the way, you could get to a place where food really holds no value. I will say when I was younger and very, what do you say, hot? I don't want to say hot-headed, but very, whatever, teenagers are very passionate about what they believe in. So when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I really cut out food pleasure. It didn't bother me at that point in time. I cut out ketchup. I would really just eat. I would eat odd things, just whatever I needed to eat. And yeshiva food was bad to begin with, so it was helpful as well. But as time went on, I guess like the Tanya says, as time went on, the animal soul got stronger, and I'm back to enjoying food. But when I wasn't, I didn't feel like I was denying myself, but I was also in a very spiritual lifestyle. I spent my day studying all day and praying all day, and it didn't feel like a life of denial. So we could get to that place, but we also have to be honest with ourselves. Where are we right now? We have to recognize where we are, and um, and um, and you know I think going for the hardest things first would be difficult. So you have to go for things that are clearly overindulgence would be a good place to start, but wherever anybody wants to start. Somebody wrote here, a key to achieving happiness is the recognition that actions such as Torah study and service to others are more pleasurable than eating chocolate cake and watching baseball. Very good. That's a very good point as well. Yeah, another thing that we can gain from this discussion that we just had is recognizing that steak is not the only pleasure that life has to give us, right? There's not just steak and baseball and hockey and football and all these other things. The most pleasurable things in our life, if we allow ourselves to see it and delve into it, is Torah study and service to others. That's a very good point. Okay, so we've had a great discussion, and let us read a little section of Tanya here, because we have these discussions how it applies to us, but the Tanya still has a thesis that wants to get through. So the Tanya here is going to say something, which is basically, I think we touched upon it last time, but the Tanya is basically going to say that even someone who is, maybe go back to my yeshiva days, right? Even someone who's in yeshiva and studies Torah all day and doesn't enjoy the pleasures of this world should never convince themselves that they're a tzaddik. Because even if you look like a tzaddik and you act like a tzaddik, right? What do they say? If it looks like a duck, talks like a duck, it is a duck. Tanya says no. If it looks like a tzaddik, it acts like a tzaddik, it's not a tzaddik. And this all goes back to the Tanya's basic premise, which is life is about what's going on internally. We have to know what's going on inside of us. That is the battle of life. Battle of life is internally, and the actions are also important and they follow. But the Tanya spends a lot of time discussing our internal self. A lot of other books talk about the external and what you do, and the Tanya talks about a lot about trying to change ourselves internally. That's really the rest of the Tanya. The rest of the Tanya is trying to help change us internally to slowly change our actions. That's why the Tanya spends so much time talking about your internal self, because that's what the Tanya is going to discuss, your internal self. So let's take a look at the text. Again, it's a little more heavy than our fun discussion we just had. And here it's going to discuss the tzaddik lookalike, and that is, someone who achieves self-mastery, would think that he is, let me have to refresh my text over here. The tzaddik who thinks he's someone who thinks he's a tzaddik someone who acts righteous all the time can think they're a tzaddik, but really they're not. So this is what the Tanya says here. It says like this: even a person for whom God's Torah is his delight, and he studies it day and night, and he studies the Torah with sincere devotion for God's sake, nevertheless he should not consider himself a tzaddik. Here we have a new slant to the Beinani experience. Just as the Beinani immersed in meditative prayer found himself temporarily devoid of urges, a Torah scholar who devotes himself to study may also find that this mental immersion drowns out his urges. The significant difference here is that, unlike prayer, which is usually contained within a limited period of time, it is possible to study Torah at every waking hour, day and night. So you could have the phenomenon of a Beinani whose deep core remains unrefined, but still never feels the urges for self-gratification due to his immersion in Torah study. And so therefore he says, the lack of self-gratifying urges for the full-time Torah scholar is no proof whatsoever that the evil has been dislodged from its place in his soul. Rather, it's possible that the deep core of his animal soul remains lodged in the left chamber of his heart and all strength and power. This, by the way, explains why we see a lot of people who, at least in yeshiva, right? You see them in yeshiva and they're studying and they're very involved, and then they go out and they drop it all. What happened is, I wouldn't say what they did before was false, but they never really dealt with their inner core. And so since they're not a tzaddik, they're a Beinani, and so they could have remained righteous for a while their animal soul went to sleep. But the moment they left the walls of yeshiva and they got involved in the business world, their animal soul wakes up and says, hey, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. Let's have a talk. And can pull them away. And the same thing, like I said, we experience this in a miniature way on Yom Kippur, right? What we feel in Yom Kippur, we might feel like our animal soul's disappeared, but really it's there. And we have to be practical with ourselves in our moments of inspiration to remember that we should not think that we're tzaddiks. We have to know that even when our animal soul is missing, it's always there. And it's really a statement about a full time of life vigilance, being vigilant your entire life. There was even a great Rabbi Yochanan in the Talmud, I think, says, he said, I don't even know which way I'm going in life. Basically, he said, like at any moment, one can go the wrong way. So it's a lesson in never being to make sure we never become complacent. Complacency is a problem. Complacency is a problem anywhere, but complacency is a problem in our own personal lives. And as I always say, if you're not on offense, you will be on defense. So in our own spiritual lives, we always have to be furthering ourselves. There's no end. There's no rest. It says in the Mishnah, it says, Tzadikim, Tzadikim, righteous people, and I would say the same thing applies to us as well. Righteous people have no rest in this world and not in the world to come. Okay? So let's apply that to ourselves. We should never think we're gonna get to rest. I was just listening to some business guy, and he was saying, like, you have a business and you solve some problems, and then you come some other problems later on. So then you'll solve those problems, then you move on, then you solve the next problems. This is what our life is going to be like. The goal is not the future. This is where people get caught up. People have this idea of what they're going to become. It's not important what you're going to become. It's what you are right now. That's what matters. That's what the Tanya tells us. What matters is right now. Right now, at this moment. Where are you standing? What are you right now? That's the most important thing in life. Anyways, let's continue. So back in this guy who is animal soul is asleep. He says it's only that the person feels refined inwardly because it's the animal soul's garments of potentially evil thought, speech, and action have no influence over his brain, mouth, and hands and other parts of the body, because God has allowed the willpower of his brain to have control and dominance over the emotions of the heart. Therefore, because this Bainani who studies day and night is able to constantly take advantage of the principle that the mind rules over the heart, the divine soul in his brain dominates the small city, all parts of his body, so they become a garment, a vehicle, influenced exclusively by the divine soul's three garments, namely thought, speech, and action related to the 613 commandments of the Torah. Okay, so we're going to stop at that juncture. But again, he's basically saying that if you're busy studying all day, you may feel yourself as righteous, you may feel great about yourself, but in essence, all you're really doing is keeping the animal soul asleep. The moment it wakes up, it can wake up in a full vengeance. And we all have to take this, again, as I said, life is about constant movement forward and refining and becoming better every single day. Because the animal soul is never going to let go of us. This is what the Tanya tells us. There's never going to be a time and place where you get rid of the animal soul. The other thing I want to take from him, by the way, is you ever see someone who's very religious do something really terrible, or it comes out they did something terrible?
I have.
Yeah, and people want to know, how is that possible?
Yeah, it's disappointing because you have those people, you have them on a higher level, and then you feel like, what about me? I know I wasn't even there, and what can happen to me?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. It's difficult, but what the Tanya is basically presenting to us is you can see someone who looks completely righteous and can have a completely rotten core. And if for whatever reason they let their guard down, they can be totally ensnared. It's very possible to happen. Another thing, by the way, I want to take from this, as far as judging other people, the Tanya is going to discuss this later. But as far as judging other people, we may feel righteous, but we may just be in a good situation in our life. And so we're not presented. In other words, my animal soul may be very strong and I may naturally have great failings. But the reason I'm not is because of my life situation. Just like this Bainani who's in a great life situation, he's getting to study Torah all day, and therefore his animal soul is not waking up. I may be in a great life situation. My marriage is great, my kids are great, my job is great, my synagogue is great, my rabbi is great. Everything's good in my life, and therefore my animal soul in certain areas of my life is asleep. But it's very possible that the people that I see that are failing in their lives don't have that situation. And maybe that's why they're having certain failings that I'm not. And so who am I to judge them? I may not be better. I may just be in a better place. I may just be in a better situation. I may just be situated better. Like this Bainani, who shouldn't look at himself like he's, oh, I'm so righteous. He just happens to be in a good situation. And it's not a depressing thought, by the way. It's an honest thought. And I think it's the better way to look at it is we don't judge anybody. We all have struggles. And when we're in good situations, we should thank Hashem we're in a good situation. We thank Hashem when we're not tested. And we should thank Hashem that we've been put in a situation where we can succeed. And we pray to God that we should always be put in such a situation. We don't want to be tested. But we should never look down at other people and think that we're better. Because maybe it's very possible we're not. Very possible we're not better. We're just in the better situation. That's a thought, a ramble. but the Tanya will discuss that later. The end of chapter 13 is going to discuss a little bit more about the Beinoni. And again, as I've done this week, I'm going to try and find ways that it's practical for us, because when you just read it simply, again, the Tanya, the thesis, and some of the things may seem on the surface not practical to us, and we will try and find ways to make it very relevant for us. So that is the end of my spiel for today. Hope you enjoyed. Just to recap, we discussed indulgence. We discussed what it means that over our lives, our animal soul gets stronger, and how we have to deal with it. I think that's what we discussed. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Oh, and we also discussed at the beginning of the class, we discussed how we look at ourselves not as wicked, how we can look at ourselves as righteous, and what matters is the moment right now. Okay, that's